Hi everyone and welcome back to Chess for Charity. In this video, I'm going to show an instructive endgame. So when I was originally taught kind of the basics of the game, I learned that most of the time a rook and a minor piece against a rook likely is a draw. Not always, but likely. Because usually you can trade off the rooks and then the minor piece alone will not be able to mate the king. So in this position, I want you to evaluate whether you think this is a draw or whether you think this is a win for white, right? White is just checking the king. That's the last move. So take a second, see if you can figure it out. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share the answer and explain why, and then hopefully you can feel like you understand endgames a bit better after this example. Okay, so after this check, you have a couple of options. As black, you can move the king, or you can block with the bishop. So moving the king immediately is a draw, because if I go ahead and move the king there, it looks like I'm blocking off the king, which is true, I am, but white just keeps checking me. And if I ever go back to this 8th rank, it actually doesn't work out, because look at this. Bang. You take that, it's stalemate. Don't you love these stalemate traps? I do. So instead, any king move, you can't go that way anyway, any king move doesn't really work to win. But this bishop move is on the right track. So that's the first thing you have to see. Maybe it's natural to block. But I want you to see if you can understand what to do next. So right now, black is threatening checkmate in 1 with rook b8. So if you're white, what do you do? Well, you can't really move your rook anywhere on this A file unless it's A1, because if not, you're going to give up checkmate. And there's no stalemate trick, because if I go to do this to try to give up my rook, you can take this because the king has 1 square. Okay, so you have to go to A1, right? To guard this. And this is where this instructive moment was for me. So maybe it'll be there for you. So when I was looking at this position, I thought I can make a waiting move with the rook. Maybe I'll play, I don't know, rook b2 or something, cutting this off, giving a little zugzwang happening, knowing that the rook's going to have to leave or give itself up. And I saw that the king could move, but I didn't really see that that was a problem. I thought I could swing over like this and give mate this way. So it turns out my idea, my original idea, of waiting with the rook is actually a flawed idea. And here's why. So I was correct that if the rook moves up, it's just going to be mate. And if the rook moves to the side, that's just going to be mate. But after the king moves, I thought I had some fancy trick where I can go here and here. That's not right. Because if I play a move like rook f2 or g2 or h2 with the intention of coming down to give mate, it doesn't actually work because, well, in this case, king to c8. And this move is not going to be checkmate because king b7. So it turns out in this position, if I went in with this plan, this would be a draw because this is capturing, and you, like I said before, if you trade off the rooks, you can't mate with just the minor piece. It's going to be a draw. So that led me back to this position. What is the best move in this position and why? And maybe it's counterintuitive, because it kind of was to me. So the best move in this position is actually king to e7. Now, what is this move accomplishing? Well, look at what you're doing to the king. You're taking away d8. Okay, this was already taken away, but you're continuing to take away d7. The bishop takes away c7, and the rook takes away these two. But what's the threat? That's the beauty of this move. What is the threat? Well, if white made a move right now, they'd have to move the rook, right? They have to move the rook either up one of these squares, like this, or they'd have to move the rook this way, because they can't move the king. This is a perfect example of zugzwang. The rook can't go anywhere. So after this move, white only has one sensible try, which is to check the king, because any other place will lead to mate in 1. So after rook a7 check, what do? You go to king e8. Look at this. Look at the way this coordination is happening. And now, what do you do if you're white? Well, the writing is kind of on the wall here. You can't really do anything. If you make this move trying to hold this b8 square, cool ideas, but doesn't really work. I make a waiting move now. And no matter what the rook does, go to any of these squares, pick your favorite square if you're white, maybe the corner. That's going to be mate. So, the point is, you're taking away their options and you're limiting them so that you can make a passing move in the end to win the game. Now notice how that didn't work originally, but it worked after you made this king move. So I hope you learned something from this, because I kind of thought I could make that waiting move now, but it turns out this little king walk on, of all squares, e8, to block the king off and give mate with little zugzwang, it worked out perfectly. But that's it for this video. If you enjoy the content, be sure to like and subscribe. I put new videos out all the time, and half of the income that I earn goes directly to charity, so a free subscription to you helps out the world a lot. Thanks so much. Bye.